I think it's going to be quite similar to Vancouver. They're quite a direct team, strong team. They like to defend as much as they can, and they're quite an energetic and fit team. So we're just going to have to match their energy on Saturday, and hopefully our quality can shine through.
Yeah. When you're on the side that's had the results, I mean, LAFC is unbeaten 10 against Seattle. You obviously haven't been in it for all of those, but the team and the energy knows what they've accomplished against Seattle, and you're playing with them. What do you expect from an opponent that hasn't gotten the results? And when you've maybe been on the other side of that, how do you manage that?
Yeah, I think it makes the team more hungry. I think it puts a little bit more of an edge on the game. They obviously might want to have that thing of we've beat them quite a lot, so it puts a lot of emphasis on their game that they want to show that they can beat us as well. So it's kind of hard because it's obviously not a normal game. It's playoffs now, and we're going to take it just as serious as them.
Yeah. Last one for me. You arrived about the same time that Olivier Giroud arrived, and the goals haven't necessarily come for Olivier, but he's obviously been impactful in games and made a lot. For people to see the score sheet and like, oh, Olivier's not doing anything, they see his frustration. But where do you see his value on the field? How does he make you guys better when he's out there?
Yeah, I mean, just day to day, being around him every day makes everyone a better player. He's got so much confidence, and he's got so much in his locker that can help us throughout the career that he's had. He can give us insights into being able to play better, and having him on the pitch, it gives us a different outlook. It gives us a player to hold the ball up and stuff, and sometimes I think we don't play to that as much as we can do. He's obviously got different qualities to some of the players that have been here in the recent years, and I think if we can start playing to his qualities, the goals will come from him.
Would you say the goal that you guys scored in Vancouver during the regular season was sort of what you're talking about, his ability to connect, hold up?
Yeah, definitely. I think his ability to be able to be the bounce pass and then get in the box and probably finish off the goals is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you've come from Europe, obviously, trying to get your head around the idea of playoffs, which
Yeah.
is a good thing to you. And tell us the truth now. Don't give us the corporate line. So you come here, you figure out playoffs, and then they say, oh yeah, by the way, there's a 2-week break right in the middle of the most important games. How stupid is that, and how hard is it for you guys?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, the playoffs are longer than I've been used to. When I play playoffs, it's you play a team twice, home and away, then that's it, and then you play the final if you get through, and then that's the playoffs done. But here it's quite elongated. The season is a season to then play the playoffs, which took my header quite a while to get around. And then you go through the games of the first one's 3 games, and then we played the third game and we still had a 2-week break.
Yeah.
The teams that didn't play the third game had a 3-week break. It's hard to be able to try and have the balance between the rest period and being able to keep the intensity to get back into the game. It's quite a long break between the 2 games, definitely.
From the fans, the momentum stops. Like some fans don't even remember there's still playoffs.
Yeah.
It's been such a long break. But for players, what I've heard is that it's the rhythm. That you are used to playing every 5 or 7 days, and with the rest, maybe you get too strong. You're faster than you were. The ball has more pace. Is that true that with the extra break you get stronger and chemistry goes away? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand the question that you try to say, but I mean, it is one of them things when you're in rhythm and when you're playing I think it was every 4 days at one point when I first came. It was you get into the rhythm of not really having to train and just being at your max level for every game. Now it's kind of sit back, you go back to the room, you go back to the draw board, and you look at training again, and you try and work out little things of where you've gone wrong, what you can improve better. But when there's game after game after game, you get into the rhythm of being able to play the games. And I think going from game after game after game to a 2-week break, it's kind of hard to adapt sometimes.
Thank you.
When you do that, and you also have international departures in there, you guys are missing some pretty key
Yeah.
players for you. So you're, as a group, you're studying and you're training, but you don't have some key contributors. Does that also sort of complicate things just in terms of looking at the game ahead?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard when you've got some players missing out, but I mean, the squad that we have is a great squad, and we've got good depth that can fill in while these players are here, and if so, they can also play the match if needed to be. And I think us all being on the same page and us all understanding these tactics is the main reason.
You said something really interesting, that with the long break you get a chance to go to the board and look at video and maybe work on things in training, and you kind of suggested that may be a good thing to do that, but it's also a danger, right? Because you can overthink it. Like, you have so much time, you can boil down Seattle
Yeah.
so tightly that you're not watching the game anymore? You're worried about watching
Yeah, I think there's a fine balance, a fine line between overanalyzing and just playing the game. And I think sometimes when you're playing game to game, you've just got to look at yourself and your own team and say, if we play to the best of our abilities, we'll do well. But when it gets to the games where you're playing one game, extra time, penalties, and if you lose, you're out, you've got to definitely look at them and as you said, boil it down to the fine details. I think there's a very fine line between doing both.
Just one more here. For you, the 2 midfielder versus 3 midfielder formation, how do you think about those things? Is there a preference for you either way?
I mean, I prefer playing in a 3, but everyone prefers something. It's not always, life doesn't always give you the best scenarios, but I mean, I'll play as long as I'm on the pitch and in the starting 11. I'll give my all every time.
2 has been pretty consistent lineup here over the last third of the season, especially since your arrival. But you guys went to 3 in that Vancouver match. Having that flexibility, knowing that you can do that and throw things in even in the middle of the game, switch things up and have success that way.
Yeah.
What does that do for the group, just in terms of like knowing that this situation in front of us can be addressed and it's not insurmountable? We can make adjustments to make the difference.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it comes from us on the pitch, but sometimes it does come from the coaches. I mean, when you're on the field, it's easier to feel the situation and feel the scenarios, and we can make the changes ourselves. We won't change formation, but we may change positions on the pitch and see how we are in certain positions. But having the flexibility to go from a 2 in the midfield to a 3 or a 5-5-3-2 or whatever you want to call it to a 4-3-3, it definitely gives the opposition a problem as well, because they have to analyse both formations that we could possibly play.
And you prefer 3 just because that's what you grew up in, or you're more?
Yeah, I've always played higher up as an 8. Don't really play as this deep line 6 that supports the attack, but adding another string to my bow is not a bad thing at 26-year-old. So, thank you.
Another adjustment is best of 3 in the first round now to back to single elimination, which I know from Europe at least you're familiar with. Where it's just play, you win, you advance, or you go home. Do you feel, what's the adjustment period going from best of 3 to single elimination? And do you feel like some of the experience you had with Huddersfield and Forest being in these pressure situations, do you feel like that's going to help you as you sort of make that adjustment?
Yeah, I feel like this is what everyone plays for. They play for the big occasions, they play for the big games, and sometimes the best of 3 can kind of get away from you. And we obviously saw in the first match we kind of controlled against Vancouver, and then the second was completely different because maybe we knew we had a third game to try and win this, but now it's one game and you've got to leave everything out there, because if you don't, you end up going home.